unbid, and somehow people just spot me on live TV. Like maybe someone circled.
You're very distinctive.
Like that also you can see. Huh?
How big is the person?
I guess it's huge. Just sitting here. But these days, everybody's on the side. So it becomes very odd because the person will look to the side, the person will look to the left. Yeah.
Very unglamorous to be down there holding up.
See, you get a hang of things now. came. You're following a story today?
Yeah, just like a red also.
Okay, but there was already a story last night, right? So another one. Wow, you have so much interest.
I think just a wrap of the
entire campaign.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Not just like
Sure. Yeah, of course.
So you guys celebrated a bowling match yesterday?
Yeah, I drink there. No, just very quickly.
Oh,
Yeah.
tiring also, I guess. Like,
Yeah, we were there waiting for the official results. Yeah. So then it came in. Wow. Yeah, with video? Video online. I see. You are? Deborah, hi. Sorry, I'm Pei here. Yeah, nice to meet you. Been meeting quite a few of your other colleagues. Yeah.
nothing in there.
Ready? I hope.
Music starts.
So that you can, okay. Quite a mouthful. Oh, okay. Just telling you.
I've given up control. Holy shit.
Okay. Very good. Yes.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good.
Were you surprised by the margin of your victory?
I was surprised by the margin of victory. I hadn't expected such remarkable unity, and I think it's a real positive for Singapore. In fact, walking around today, several hawker centres, although people were congratulating me, I was actually congratulating them for just that sense of unity that Singaporeans want. It would otherwise not have been possible for me to have had that margin. And I do believe very strongly that it is an expression of hope, an expression of the desire for an optimistic future, and an expression of wanting to work together, including in new ways, in society, with government, civil society, just wanting to work together in new ways to develop a culture of respect, to help Singapore stand tall in the world, even as a small country, and of course to make sure that we have sound financial governance. So I think Singaporeans have been very sensible in the way they voted, and I think we all have to congratulate ourselves. It's really not congratulating me, but congratulating ourselves for this vote in our future.
Mr. Chairman, you have been holding a lot of important international appointments.
Yes.
Now with your presidency starting in 2 weeks' time, so how do you intend to keep or
I will have to review them and also go with the advice of Cabinet as to what's in Singapore's interest. Some of them are clearly in Singapore's interest. Some are midstream and it's good to carry on. So that's something to be evaluated. From the very start, stated that it's a plus for Singapore that I come with some international standing and networks around the world, which we should try to use.
What are some of your plans at the office? Do you have any concrete plans to take off?
Well, let's wait for me to take office first. I'm looking forward to meeting President Halimah in the first instance and getting advice from her. She has served Singapore remarkably well. I admire her equanimity, her poise, and the dignity with which she's held the presidency. And one of the first things I want to do is to sit down with her and get her thoughts and advice, or coming from the last 6 years. I'm not going to rush the process, but I'm very serious about wanting to fulfill the mandate that's been given to me by the people. I haven't honestly had a lot of time to think about my plans in the next 2 weeks. I've been focused very much on trying my very best in this election campaign and building on, of course, everything I've been doing before that. So I haven't thought very hard about my day-to-day schedule for the next 2 weeks, but I'm certainly looking forward to it. Looking forward first to attending the ceremony to mark President Halimah's end of term on the 13th, and then on the 14th, of course, when I'm sworn in. It's been a very smooth process, and I think there'll be a lot of lessons coming out of yesterday's vote. I spoke about some of them yesterday, including the fact that this is another milestone in the way we are evolving in how we look at race. Always a factor, but not the only factor. I think it's also interesting that Singaporeans, whom I believe want a non-partisan president. And that's in fact something which I have been advocating all along. They do not think that having been a member of a political party or even being a member of cabinet should diminish a person's ability to be non-partisan. It all depends on the individual, the character of the person, the reputation of the person, and the ability to reach across all the boundaries you can think of in Singapore. And that's always been my orientation. So I think it's a very interesting lesson that Singaporeans do not think that my political service all these years was a disadvantage. As I've explained in my 2 TV broadcasts, that's been a huge source of strength for me. My on-the-ground experience, my policy-making experience, and of course my international experience. It's been a huge source of strength, and it wouldn't have come about if I hadn't spent 22 years in politics. That's for sure. It's instructive that even at the very outset, when Mr. Lee Kuan Yew spoke about the whole concept of needing an elected presidency decades ago, in that very same speech, he said, he opined, that it would be ideal if the person who fulfilled that role of acting as a check on government was a former minister who really knew a lot about the budget. And he said it for a reason, because these can be very complex matters. It's not a simple matter of having a key in your hand and deciding whether you turn it or not turn it. You've got to understand the challenges Singapore faces. You've got to understand the revenue options. You've got to understand the spending priorities, both in normal times when we need to deal with long-term crisis, as well as in crisis times. And understanding the ins and outs of the government budget and the budgets of the other public agencies concerned is invaluable knowledge and experience. So I think Singaporeans have been very sensible in all of this. They judge the person. They don't hold it against you because you've been a member of cabinet or a member of a political party. And they may even think it's a plus because you've got knowledge, experience, and you come armed with the confidence of knowing that you'll be able to judge on the basis of real knowledge. But ultimately, the president has to be non-partisan. That's a precondition. So, non-partisan, working with government, working with civil society and all the other groups that are trying to make Singapore a better society. That's the right combination we need. Good. I don't think so. I don't think so. As I've explained, I'm not going to change my personality and my style. I intend to be an active president. Oh, I will serve them to the fullest. I'll serve them to the fullest. It's to be expected in any election. Like I say, I did not expect such a high degree of endorsement, which also means that there was a fair number of people who would normally not vote in favor of the ruling party, who decided that this was not a political election, this was not a general election, and they decided to vote for me. And I think that's also very encouraging. What was? Well, I don't think there was anything unusual or original on my mind. I mean, I have a routine when I wake up. I don't need to take you through the domestic details of what I do when I wake up, but there was nothing, no sudden flash of brilliance that passed through my mind. Sorry, say again? No, I was surprised it was as high as 70%. I did not have such high expectations, which is why I really feel that congratulations are in order to Singaporeans. because this was a vote for an optimistic future. It was a vote for unity. It was actually a vote for Singaporeans. I really believe that.
Have you spoken to Mr. Tan Kim Lian's
Yes, I mean, I spoke, in fact, I called up Mr. Ng Kok Song before I spoke to the media yesterday. In fact, the moment I got the results based on the sample numbers, I spoke to Mr. Ng Kok Song. I tried to get Mr. Tan Kim Lian, but his number was busy. I tried a few times. And subsequently, we have been on messages with each other. We have been on very convivial messages with each other.
Salman, in your next term of presidency, it's going to oversee presidential leadership with our neighbors and international coming up in 2025. How do you see the role of the president in this situation?
Well, I've spoken about that before, because that was also one of the reasons why I decided to put myself forward for the presidential elections. I feel we're going through a very important transition. And as I mentioned, it's not going to be a matter of clearing one hurdle where there's a change in political leadership. It's actually a new era that we've entered. Singapore society is changing, Singapore politics is changing, and I think the relationship between the President and the Prime Minister, the new Prime Minister, should be a constructive one. And I believe we can make that work. We can make that work. It's a relationship of trust. It will be a different relationship from before because we are no longer cabinet colleagues. But it will be a relationship of trust and mutual respect. As you know, I have a high regard for him. And I believe that we will have a very constructive relationship. And you have to remember, as I've said before as well, that when it comes to the international role of the government, the President has to work together with government. The President is not a solo operator. The President represents Singapore, and it's critical that the President and the government have good relations and are working on as one.
Mr. Taman, so what do you think worked with your campaign and strategy?
Well, I did what I've always been doing, which is interacting with people in my usual way, not changing my personality, not changing who I was. I did run on the fact that I had a track record for a long time that was well known, not just in Jurong but outside. I had a traditional strategy, if you like. I did learn a fair bit about the social media as someone who is a complete novice before this campaign. I mean, a complete novice, I would say, and I became quite active at it. But I don't think it was any one thing. To be honest, I have a feel for ordinary Singaporeans, what they're looking for, what they listen to, and what they feel. And that has helped me in all my interactions and in my style of campaigning. I do not like a style of frenzy during 9 days. I prefer to just make it a continuation of what I've always been. And you've got to be authentic to yourself. So that's all I could say, really.
Yeah, I think we're good. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your patience. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry. Maybe we'll see you again.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.